Now the excitement begins. I received the kit and the shop is all ready. So it's time to inventory all the parts and organize them so they're easy to find. Then my first big task is to prep the fuselage frame for powder coating. My plan is to complete the wings first and then set them aside so I can work on the fuselage. Primarily this is so I can delay the purchase of an engine and avionics because let's face it, those are going to be updating all the time, and I want the latest and greatest by the time I fly. Once the kit was ready, I coordinated with Rands to have a private shipper drive this all the way across from Kansas to Salt Lake. And there was some snow along the way, so it had to coordinate a little bit with that. But it arrived in one piece, and everything worked out really well. I unpacked the pallet and spread everything across the garage. A lot of the big pieces I placed on the floor, and then a lot of the little pieces I placed up on the benches, both on the side bench and the back bench, and it filled all those. Then it was time to inventory all the parts, just to make sure that everything that they said was going to be in the kit was actually included. So that involved taking every little part, every little bag, and marking it off on the inventory sheet. But luckily, Rands has a numbering system that makes it pretty easy. And then it was time to organize all these. Once I get them all, get everything in there. But everything that they said was going to be in the kit was in the kit, so no problems there. It was pretty awesome. I then organized the parts using a couple different methods. First, I had all these bins underneath the benches that I just bought at a big box store, and they're kind of flimsy, so I put a strap around them, each one of those, make them a little bit sturdier. Rands organizes all their parts in subcategories. For instance, AC is aircraft, AL is aileron, AV is avionics. So I separated out these bins with these subcategories. So therefore, I just needed to go to a small area to find a part in that category. The more common standard hardware that had a whole bag full of nuts or bolts or something, I took out of those bags and put them in these bins using the same labels that came with the little bags from Rands. And it makes it much easier if I just need to get one or two of these. After inspecting and inventorying all the large parts, they ended up in a spare bedroom. Now, all the packages had little Rands labels on them, but to make it easier to find, I cascaded them all out and then marked with a big marker on it what was inside the package. My plan was to build the wings first, but after inspection of the fuselage frame, I noticed there was a lot of rust already starting on the chrome moly, so I had to kind of take care of that, and that involved sanding all the frame down and getting it powder coated. I had to clean all the patina from the metal and also address some of the rust that's on here. And as you see and get a little closer, you can see not only a little bit of rust forming, but also a lot of splatter from the welds. So I had to take care of that. Sanding the frame down with Scotch-Brite pads took a long time. And I had to also address the splattering from the welds. And I used a file to file most of those down. And I looked at the log after it was all done, and it looked like I had at least 60 hours into sanding down the frame, much longer than I thought it would take. A huge help during this whole process was this rotisserie setup made out of wood that allows you to rotate the frame to multiple different positions to be able to work on it easier. I obtained these plans from the Rands Clan website. And they're also used to mount the wings, so it'd make them easier to cover when I get to that point. I went through a lot, and I mean a lot, of these Scotch-Brite pads. Every time I went to Home Depot, I bought out their whole stock. So sorry for anybody that's behind me. And then I used, for the intricate work, I used this Dremel tool with some Scotch-Brite wheels to get into the small cracks. One thing I learned the hard way during this whole process is that this sanding dust gets like everywhere. So the metal dust and also from the Scotch-Brite pads. So it was time to break out the respirator and also the gloves. And that really helped to clean up afterwards. Once all the prep work was completed, I took the fuselage frame and the tail feather frames down to a professional powder coater, and for a few $100s, they did a great job with this light gray color. And it gets into all the little nooks and crannies, and it came out very smooth and very hard. Here's the whole fuselage frame after I had already installed all the fuselage formers. But you can see the light gray color that I used. A lot of people have been asking me why I use the light gray. And it's really for inspection purposes. It's much easier to see cracks if it's light colored. That's why landing gear is always painted white and sometimes silver. But then, of course, I also matched the color with some spray paint so I can paint any of the interior colors to match the frame. Now that the fuselage and tail feathers are all powder coated, I can set them aside and start on the wings.